Hello and welcome to the 6th JobAdder Academy sessions. I can't believe we've done 6 of these already, Idris. I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the Recruiting Gym, and we do these in conjunction with JobAdder. Idris, Kamara, welcome to the session. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you, Angela. Thanks for having me, and great to hopefully see so many people on board. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been quite a few months since the last one. We've got a little bit that we're going to just remind you of that was in the last session, but there are 5 others of these on great topics, whether it's around building business development or approaching candidates, onboarding new starters, lots of different topics for you. So if you've not heard of the JobAdder Academy, we'll get the links in there for everyone so that you can go and get those resources as well. So we've got 3 sessions over the next month. Let's just give you an intro into what we're doing today. So first and foremost, it's all around building pipelines. Developing and managing pipelines is this one on the first week. And as I said, it's Idris and myself. So let's just find out a little bit more about ourselves. We've both been in sales. We've both been in recruitment for a long period of time. Idris, how long have you been with JobAdder now?
Coming up to 4 years, but still feels really, really new. Really new.
It's amazing, isn't it, how 4 years can be like. I feel like a newbie still, but no, because there's always new stuff to learn. I'm 4.5 years with the Recruiting Gym, similar time during that COVID time, and yet there's always more stuff to learn. Now, for those of you looking at that and seeing that I've been doing sales for 45 years, yes, I started my first company when I was 10. And I did sales door to door, so I count that as well. I was selling every week, knocking on doors. So we've definitely got the background for this from both a recruitment point of view, from a sales point of view, from a developing relationships point of view, and that's a key thing here. So the agenda we're going to tackle today that we've got for you, we're going to look at, well, what is a pipeline first of all, but then those 13-week strategies, 90 days, 3 months, work really well in those 3-month sprints to really make a difference and make an impact. Inroads with new clients, developing relationships with existing clients. So we'll be discussing both of those. And then we'll get into some of those activities. What is it that you can be doing to help build those long-term relationships right from the start, right from that initial contact period? And of course, we're working with JobAdder here, so we want to make sure that whatever CRM you're working with, that you're using it effectively to support your efforts, support that building of pipelines so that you're not losing anything. And there will be time for a Q&A at the end, 5-10 minutes. So if you have got any questions, do get them in the chat. If you're over on LinkedIn, I can see we're live there as well. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. And if we don't see it, come and join us on Crowdcast, because that's where we are and that's where we're likely to see it first. Now, these sessions, as I said, they'll get downloaded. They'll be put into the Academy. So if you aren't watching this live, if you're catching up on repeat, you can still put the questions in for the next 2 anyway, because we'll be coming back. So feel free to join us for those as well. Okay, well, let's dive into it then, and we can share a bit about ourselves along the way. So I thought, well, let's start off with, well, what is a pipeline? Because yes, we've got the traditional pipeline that I've got in the background there. I'm guessing that's a gas pipeline. But we're looking at sales pipelines. And there's lots of different ways to look at it. I really liked this definition, so I'm going to read this one out. Sales pipeline is a visual representation of the sales process from lead generation to closing a deal. It's a tool that helps companies track companies' progress, predict revenue, drive sales, and we'll be getting into those later bits there in the next 2 sessions. But certainly tracking companies' progress is really important because things get lost. We know we're really busy. Recruiters, it's 15 jobs in one. You cannot be expected to remember everything. So having a pipeline, having it And for me, a visual representation was critical. If it's not talking to me, if it's not shouting at me, going get on with it, then I would struggle to remember everything. So again, it's making sure that's coming through. So what it says, typically, you've got stages along the way. So lead generation, lead qualification, lead nurturing, getting all of that information in to then hopefully deal closing. And there's a lot in between those parts as well. And that's what we're going to look at today to give you some more insight. Now, there'll be some people that'll be watching that have been doing it for years, like us. But ask yourself honestly, are you doing this religiously? Are you building pipelines for yourself? Are you monitoring them? Are you analyzing them? Are you gathering all the data? Because it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. This is something that sometimes gets left. Or we forget about an element. And I've got to put my hands up. I used to be brilliant at this, especially as a recruiter. Wow. Very little dropped through my net. But yeah, I think things change, the world changes, and the markets change, and focuses change, and priorities change. And therefore, we need some support and help sometimes. So some of these, it will be a refresher for you. If you're new to the industry, this is going to make a big difference. So I wanted to start with that visual representation because I'm a visual and it makes it a lot easier. So let's just break down those parts before we get into it in a bit more detail. So generating the leads, qualifying the leads, making sure they're good. And we did go into detail in this in a lot one around boosting productivity in the last Academy 5. So you'll be able to find that on the JobAdder site. Idris, if you're there, if you can grab links and stick them in the chat as we're mentioning these things, that would be fantastic. But we are just going to reference it again for those of you that didn't see it before. But if you want to go into real detail, grab that link, go back and have a look at those sessions. From the qualification, we've then got the activities. Oh gosh, and when I started, that was pretty much what we called a 10-week ring round. So we were nearly at the 3 months then, but for some reason, I think it just sounded better, 10-week ring round. In other words, we just rang them every week and hoped to get some jobs on. That was it. That was the quality of our strategies there. Yeah, ring them every week. And it might be you ring them and ask for business, or it might be you ring them and you market in a candidate, which is a great way of developing business. But that was about it. And it didn't take me long to realize, Idris, that I was just annoying people, ringing them every week.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. They're a new potential client that you're hoping to get on board, and all you're doing is winding them up to start with. So we've expanded all of that to sort of 20, 25, 30 different activities that you can be doing. So we'll be getting into all of that as well. From there, it's then all of that information gathering, defining the opportunity, what is here, and hopefully through your qualification, you've identified some, but it's all through those activities that you'll build a much better representation of what you could be doing with this company. And sometimes those opportunities come out of left field. They're not what you expected. And then, of course, there's the closing element, because it's all well and good identifying all of these things and defining them. But if you don't actually win, and I've been seeing some posts recently on LinkedIn of people that, again, have been doing this for years and years, very capable, very competent. And I saw one this morning saying, I can't believe the amount of no's that I'm getting. Never had this many before. And monitoring your success rates. So that's a great KPI to have. Okay, how many meetings do I have? How many actually end up in business? And I think we did talk about that as well, actually, on the boosting productivity one. That those KPIs, those assessments can really help you to see where it's dropping off, where it's not working. And we're finding in the industry, and again, it's the market and it's people lack of confidence, that they are looking for a lot more opportunities, a lot more choice, whereas maybe they would have just gone with, if they were happy, first decision. And of course, we've been seeing that with candidates for many years, where they've got choice and they're not necessarily taking the first thing that's offered to them. They're waiting on number 2 and number 3 to come through before they make that decision. So yeah, it's all well and good. It can all go wrong right to the last minute. So if we can keep an eye on it, if we can keep on top of it, if we can be achieving positive things, then that's going to make a big difference. So I wanted to just take that sort of first piece, that lead generation. Now, I could have done this as a funnel. Idris, have you seen the funnel of sales leads?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have. We sometimes use it internally. So it's a really great way of seeing or tracking why people are dropping out as well through the different gaps. But this also works really well.
Yeah, because I'm a visual, that sort of dropping down and losing along the way, like the leaky bucket sort of scenario. I don't know why, it's just not a positive viewpoint for me. Whereas an arrow going from left to right, and depending which country you're in, you might want to turn it right to left. It just shows positivity for me. It's okay. Yeah, we're moving. We're keeping going. It's not dropping. It's carrying on. So actually, if they turn the funnel the other way up, I'd probably be all right. It's like following them in from the bottom, keep moving upwards. That would sit well with me. It doesn't matter. It's what works for you. So think of that representation that's going to give you a positive viewpoint when you look at it. So generating those leads, we'll dive into that in a second. Qualifying them, even more important, and then the activities that you can do. So we're going to start with these. So first and foremost then, Idris, if you're thinking about business that you do, because generating leads works for every industry, doesn't it? So what would you say is your favourite way of generating leads?
My favourite way is on the phone. I think the phone is best. Hopefully getting someone's mobile number, but if not, getting them on the line, because you almost want to get to the no, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but at least if you get a no, you can ask follow-up questions. Is it no forever? No for now? If anything would change that, when should I call back? And then I can focus on other things. So the example you gave earlier of calling every other week or so, well, if we would have gotten a no, we can focus on some other prospects and getting more people into our, not our funnel, but into our process to try and move them along and hopefully qualify those leads better.
Yeah, and initially you're going to need a lot of leads to generate the business that you want. As time goes on, you monitoring and analyzing what you're doing, you get better and better at identifying those leads and identifying what is a great client, and you'll hone down those leads pretty quickly during the qualification process. So that's really lovely as well. The better you get at it, of course, the more yeses you get earlier on, because it's relevant and it's information.
Always great.
So, I mean, certainly CV stripping. If you've got a good candidate, where have they worked? Because if they're relevant to you, where they've worked in the past, not always, but they're potentially going to be relevant to you as well. So that probably is your quickest and easiest way of identifying potentially suitable clients, because you've got access to, I would say, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of candidates. And of
also
course,
their competitors as well. Sorry,
yes.
Also their competitors as well. If you know your marketplace, you will know who the other businesses that will look for those skill sets are. When I worked in IT recruitment, I would know everyone who would take on PHP developers, and then I would know the types of PHP developers they would take on. So then I've got my list that I should be going after, and I can expand on that list, as you say, using what you're doing, going for their CVs of other people I'm speaking to, and then building from there.
Yeah, so we're market mapping here. We're identifying who's out there, what do they do, and just being a little bit smart about it, rather than just trying to throw a net over everything. It is about honing down as to who's going to be relevant. Now that could be location wise. When I started, my first location only had a 5-mile radius, so that made it very easy to identify the leads within that. I then moved down to Kent, and I had a 50-mile. I had the whole of Kent to myself. So I had a 50-mile radius. And a lot of the time, recruiters, you may specialize in a sector, but that person could be placed in any industry. So all of a sudden, you've got it. So that was always a nice thing, looking at our client universe. Who have we got in our universe already? So if you looked at if we looked at the universe and all the stars, then it might be some of those planets, right, they're clients already. But actually, how many else are out there? And we know it's infinite, isn't it? So when you start thinking, okay, well, who else could I be working with? And I'm working with a hospitality company at the moment, and I did catering as my first temporary job. And I was supplying the contract caterers like Compass and Aramark and those. So that was great. So I could then dive into all of the other contract caterers. They were easy to find. But I did sit down and look at my client universe once, and I thought, yeah, they're great, but they tend to squeeze margins just a little bit. I want to actually get better business for me. Where else could I place these people? These chefs, these cooks. So all of a sudden, when I instead of saying chef and I said cook, I suddenly realised, okay, all the schools, every school in my 5-mile radius has a school cook and people within the kitchen. So then I supplied all of the schools, and then I thought, well, they're people that need support and need feeding. Who else need feeding? Hospitals. So then I supplied the hospitals. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, what about the old people's homes and the children's homes? So you can see where that might not have been my initial thought, and contract caterers is the logic. But once you start expanding out on that and realizing, actually, the people that I have in my universe, my candidates, I could place them in all of these different places. Now, you're not necessarily just going to dive into that. You're going to do the market research. And that's the whole point about developing your leads. Where else could they go? Next question. Do I want to? Because some of those markets weren't easy to deal with. And if I had my time again, I probably wouldn't have focused on that. So take a step back before you dive in, generating your leads. Have a logic to it, have a strategy, think about what you want, but start with your own client universe and then think, okay, it's a big old universe. There's loads more out there. What are the stars? What are the planets? Big ones, little ones. What do I want? And let's start thinking that. And it really helps to ask someone else, because the lateral thinking, you'll only go so far. And if you ask someone else, okay, I supply these type of people, where else could I put them? It's amazing what people come up with. And you go, I didn't even think of that. So that's our starting point here, is get lateral, get your lateral thinking brain going and think, where else could I go? Now, don't waste time. We want to make sure that you're qualifying your lead. So this was an element that we did, as I mentioned. So I'm just going to go through this quite quickly. So first and foremost, what makes a great client? Start with your best client. And it could be in the company you're in now. It might be in a previous company, it might not even be in recruitment. But what makes your best client? Think about all of these different elements. And this is just an example of some, because it will be different for each of you. And what's ideal is if you can define your own 10. Pick 10 criteria that you want in your clients. So for me, I'd want multiple positions, top right there. I'd want exclusivity that flashed up near at the end. I want pays on time on the left. And a new recruiter doesn't always think about that. They're all about the initial part and getting someone placed, not about getting the money in to make sure that they pay. What I did realize was just in the middle on the left there, trust my judgment, where I became a trusted partner to the HR team, to the hiring managers, made a huge difference to my success rates. So when you look at these, think about your best client first, the one you love working with and you do make a profit with. Because sometimes we love working with people and we don't make money. So we don't want to go down that route. So those great clients, what are the characteristics about them? What is it that makes them your best client? And as I say, if you've not been in it long, that's fine. If any customer that you've worked with in the past, this will relate to all of them. So what is it that makes a difference? And once you've got those 10, all those leads that you've generated, all those potential clients that you're putting into your process, you can now define whether they're likely to be good, bad, or indifferent. So this is where you score them out of 10. And because you haven't worked with them yet, there will be some of those things that you won't be able to score them on. So it might be there's 5 out of the 10 criteria, I can score them on straight away. And if they're scoring 4 out of 5, great, 80%. So your existing clients, you work with them, you'll be able to score them out of 10, but your potentials, it'll be a percentage, because you won't necessarily have all 10 criteria that you'll be able to clarify. But if they're 80 or 80%, brilliant. A clients, you want to spend the majority of your time prioritizing these clients. Your B clients, okay, they're scoring the 6 and the 7s or 60 to 79%. Okay, there's potential there. They could be good. What's missing? What are the things that were missed off your list? Can you do anything about them? In other words, there'll be things on there like location. Okay, you might have a bit of an influence. And I did once with one client, and they did eventually end up moving. I'm sure it wasn't just down to my feedback, but combined with what was going on. But that's very rare. You really can't have much of an impact on a company's location. So, okay, I'm not going to be able to move that one up. But there'll be others that I can. And therefore, if they're a movable feast, brilliant. They could still go to an A. There's still things that we could work on that could make a difference here. It's the C clients where we waste a lot of time. Well, I've put them in red as well. 5s and unders, or 59% and under. These are clients that are already only scoring half of what you're looking for. So the likelihood of them scoring more, yeah, it's not great. So at this point, have a think about the worst client you ever worked with, the worst customer, and score them on your top 10. And normally when I do this with in my training sessions, 0s, 1s and 2s people come out with. And it's no wonder, no wonder that they're a tough client to work with and they're not your favorite client, because none of those things are linking. They're not your tribe, if we want to put it there. We're looking for A clients that are going to be your tribe because that's what you need. And that's what works well for you. And you don't have to stick with those 10, by the way. You can review them every quarter, and there might be one that goes on and off, and it just depends on your situation and the market. They're flexible. But each time you change the 10, you then need to go back and rescore your clients and see where you are, because that's what you need right now. Probably every 6 months, 1 or 2 are going to change. It's not going to be that much. So that's the qualifying piece. Don't go after bad business. Don't put all your efforts into a company that actually, when you get them, you go, oh, God. We've all done it. All that effort, you do all the work, you get there, and then you go, oh, God, this is a nightmare. And you can try and change it. The aim is, with those, I would suggest that you share your 10 criteria for a great client. Get some stats and figures from your best client, and things like fill rates with them, how long it takes to hire, they're going to be pretty good. So if you can then share, look, this is my criteria for a wonderful client relationship, and these are the success rates that I get when I work with clients at that level. We're not there at the moment. So what can we change? What can we make a difference around? So feel free to be open to your clients about that, because if it's about making it a better relationship and them getting the people that they need in a quicker time, they're going to be open to that. So don't hold back, as it were, because you actually not got much to lose at this point. If they're a nightmare client that you're working with, they're just using up all your time. You might not even be making any money if you're on contingency. Did that hit home at all with you, Idris?
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially the C clients, because sometimes a bird in hand is worth two in the tree. But if that bird in hand is costing you more time, more effort, more stress, you're better off just devoting more time to some business development, or trying to move some of those Bs a little bit higher, turn them into As and make them stickier clients. But yeah, absolutely. And when I first started in recruitment, I was very, very guilty of that. It took an older head to just say, what are you doing? Take a step back and see the data. The data doesn't lie.
Exactly. So that, I must admit, yeah, having this later on in my career, and certainly when I've shared it with teams when I'm working with them and I get people to do it, and you'll get groans. People are, oh God, I've got a client on my list. I've had a year, I've been trying to get them. It looked like it was great business, but now I've looked at the criteria, it's not. And I've spent all that time and I don't want them now. But at least you now know that there is a way of doing this. And there will have to be some flexibility with that. So during a positive market, a great market, so let's say 2022, this would have been gold dust for so many people, where they were wasting time with time wasters. But in a tough market, we know that some of those values, or the criteria, might have to slide a little, but it just means that you're going to be working with those clients and working to build the relationship further, looking at the criteria that's missing. Whereas in a great market, you don't even have to worry about them, because you can just walk away and say no. It always hit home to me when my first year in recruitment, my manager, Michelle Nicholson Rolls, love her. she'd say, you're not the job centre. You don't have to work with anyone. We're a business. We get to choose if we want to work with people or not. And I've taken that all through my recruitment career. Having that ability to say no sometimes and to walk away is really powerful, and we need to learn that early. So it's that sort of fail fast. If you've got them on your list and you're finding out more and more about them, and you're realizing as you're looking at the criteria that they're getting worse and worse, then yeah, it just fail fast, cut your losses, find one that's going to be an A, that's going to score really highly. Because also think about it, if you only work with clients that are like your best client, if you imagined every client was the relationship you had was the same as that best client, how easy would your life be?
Be amazing.
It'd be amazing.
I'm sure you'd make more revenue.
Well, of course, yeah, because they trust you, they work with you, there's a partnership there, it's successful and it's enjoyable. So why shouldn't we want to strive for that? That makes so much sense. So building your pipelines, let's build strong pipelines that aren't going to break, or if we've got those birds in our hands, they're not going to be pecking our fingers off and making holes. We definitely don't want those ones. Right. Okay. So let's move on now to those activities. So we've done the lead generation, we've qualified them. It's now all about the activities. So as I mentioned, 13-week strategies. So it's going to be sales and marketing. You're going to be combining both of those. And the aim of the sales is to get it to that close, and that you're going to get to there. But people need to know about you first of all. There needs to be opportunities for that marketing. So we're looking at the top end of this reaction at the moment, and the BD activities, it's that's going to lead you to the opportunities, which will lead you to the opportunity to close. Now, whenever we do these sessions, we appreciate that you're likely to have a CRM. It may not be JobAdder, it doesn't matter. But even if you haven't got a CRM, we want to give you examples of how you can do this for yourself. So I'm going to share first of all a sort of analog version of how you can do these 13-week strategies. And if you are interested in having a copy of those, I am happy to share it. There's instructions on it. There's different tabs for existing, for potential, as an example. So feel free to reach out to me, whether that's on LinkedIn or an email address. I'll stick that in the chat now. But we're going to do sort of the analog version first, and then if you have got a great CRM, we're then going to see JobAdder's version of that, and how we can utilize it there as well. So let's have a look then. So if you're using good old spreadsheet, so what I've got here is Q4s. So from the beginning of October to the end of December, I didn't double check the days actually, but I'm just saying Q4 as an example. So I would aim to have 20 hit list clients, 20 potentials. Now you're going to have a tab with your existing on as well, or you're going to have your database with your existing. You do want to be planning activities for them as well during the quarter, but the difference between them is that the potential clients, there is something planned every week. Now, going back to my 10-week ring round, it's not phoning them every week. You want to have within the quarter, within the 13 weeks, 6 opportunities to have contact with them. And that may be a phone call. That could be a client meeting. That may be marketing and a candidate. It could be bumping into them at a networking event. It could be going to a conference and seeing them there. Lots of different ways to have interaction with them. So it doesn't just have to be the phone call, and it certainly doesn't have to be an email every week, because again, that's going to get nowhere. So what we do want is to mix it up. We want lots of different versions. Now, I'm not expecting you to be able to read the bottom here, but we've got a key, because the way this works, if you are doing it on a spreadsheet, we still want everything going into the CRM. So we've just got a code for all the different activities that you're doing, and you just update the code on a weekly basis. All of the comments, all the information goes where it needs to go, allocated to that client. Oh, I just seen Leonardo DiCaprio there. Second, we'd have him as a second client. I just watched The Departed again on Monday, was it, or Sunday?
Fantastic.
What a film. If you haven't watched it, And actually, my taxi driver going to Edinburgh Airport last night, he'd never seen it, never heard of it. I'm like, what? One of the best films ever. It gets 8.5 on IMDb, I think. So there you go. Your film tip for today, The Departed. If you haven't seen it, but go back actually and watch it again because it makes so much more sense the second time. I think it must be nearly 20 years old now. But yeah, made a lot more sense, and because there's so many elements to it and twists and turns and everything. So yeah, watch it again. Right. Anyway. I don't know why my brain went from Leonardo DiCaprio to Jennifer Saunders, but there you go. That's how I am. I'm looking at that now and seeing all the people that have died on there. Oh, some of them are old anyway. Al Jolson, he was one of my favourites. Right, move on, Angela. What's that?
Some really great names. Sean Connery, Karl Lagerfeld.
Yeah. I mean, Barack Obama obviously was probably prominent at that time, but Richard Burton, Coco Chanel. Yeah, you can see how my brain works. From Karl Lagerfeld to Louis Walsh to Brandon Block.
I love it.
Can you imagine those three at a dinner table? Oh, and Sarah Harding's gone as well now. Right, anyway, move on. So what we've got here is your 20 clients. If you are starting a new division, or if you're new and you've got to build business, then I would recommend 50. And this isn't just a stick my finger in the air and have a think. When I was running a team of 11 recruiters, we tried lots of different numbers on our 13-week strategies. So we did start with 50 and found we didn't get the traction that we needed. It was too many when you were running a busy desk. We tried with a new person coming in, set up a new division. We tried 100. Again, too many. So we found 50 worked really well for someone that isn't already got lots of jobs or bookings, and they could focus on those and do really well. The 20, we tried 10, we didn't get enough business. The 20 we landed on, and that just worked for us. Now, if it doesn't work for you, then it might be that you need to adjust that. Try different things. This was over a couple of years. We were trying different numbers, but the 20 worked. And from the 20, we'd normally get 6 new clients a quarter. So that's 2 new clients a month. If you're looking for 2 new clients a month as an individual, brilliant. 24 new clients a year. Yeah, that's going to build your business really well. Now, again, the type of clients and the size of them makes a difference. So yes, we're looking for A clients, potential A's here as a percentage. Might be scoring 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, 75%. Okay, B's moving to A's. But what was helpful was also not putting all big clients on there, because we did that to start with as well. You know, all the ones on the PSLs, masses of business, they're the business that we want, which was great until we picked off 2 or 3 or 4 in a quarter and we couldn't supply. So you've got to think about, okay, what could I actually cope with if it came off? So again, our recommendation would be 5 large clients that aren't going to take a quarter. They might take 2, 3, a year before you're likely to get anywhere. But you keep those on there. You keep focusing. If there's big business there and you want it, they're going to be a potential A client. Brilliant. 5 of those, 5 medium that might come off in a quarter, but more likely maybe half a year. And then 10 smaller companies that are recruiting now is likely to come off this quarter, as long as you can convince them to use you. And again, that degree of difficulty in sales, think about ones that are already using agencies, because that's already been dealt with. Yep, they use agencies. Great. You're over that obstacle and objection. You've just got to convince them that you're better. So if you really want to take it down another level, we would look at other agencies that they're using that we know aren't that good. So we wouldn't go after the ones that are brilliant. We'd go after the ones that we know we get bad feedback on from the candidates, because the likelihood is we're going to switch those. So you can see how all of a sudden this lead generation, you're honing it down to focus on 20 in a quarter where you're likely to get 6 to come off. And the way this works, you plan in 1 week. So the week ahead, you've always got it all filled in, and you'll see there that it then adapts depending on what's happening with the client. But you're always a week ahead. You've always got activities booked in there. And it could be a business development call. It could be doing some research. That's the activity to start with. I'm going to go online. I'm going to do research. I'm going to find out all about them. I'm going to find out what their critical issues and drivers are at the moment. So when I do get to speak to them, I'm going to know a lot more about their business and be able to talk to them on their level. It might be connecting with them on LinkedIn, following their social medias, making a like, making a comment, sending them making a connection and sending them an article, a blog post that you think would be relevant to them. There's all these different activities. So you've got them all down the bottom, and of course you can just adding to them whatever it is that you do to develop business. But what do we got? 5, 10, 15, 20, there's at least 25 there straight away of things that you could be doing. So plan those in for the week, one colour. On the Friday, update it, change the colours to one where you've achieved it. So we've got light blue for planned, pink for achieved. Leave the light blue in there though, because what we learned, we were sort of trying to do block things. We'd send a mail shot out to everyone, and then trying to follow that up in the week and get hold of all those people wasn't happening. So we then started adapting it. Maybe we do half of them with a mail shot one week and half the next week. So we gave ourselves those opportunities. So you'll get smarter at your planning. You'll see what's working, what's not, what you're getting to achieve and why not. And if you've missed something, you can see the next week, okay, I also need to do that bit as well as this. So I've got 2 activities to do with this client this week. And for me, I would print this off. It fitted on one page. I'd print it off, I'd scribble all over it over the week, I'd plan all the stuff going ahead as to what's happening next and when I need to call and what I need to do. And then it would just be 5 minutes updating it on a Friday and then printing it off again, ready for the Monday morning to start again. But if it was sitting on the desk and it was sort of shouting at me, going, get on with it, get on with it, get on with it, then things would get done. And that's what worked for me. So I want to share that with everyone. If you want a copy, then just ask, feel free to do that. What I would like to do, though, is for Idris, for you to share your screen. Perfect. And let's have a look from a JobAdder point of view. So we're going digital now. We're going advanced. I'll stick those slides up there and let's see if that works. I'm going to grab my tea if that's okay.
Not allowing me to share.
Oh, because I'm already sharing. So let me just stop sharing. And hopefully that will
perfect.
Give you
yeah,
there we go.
It is fantastic.
But that client development funnel, it's got to be 30 years I've been using those. And because it was actually a physical thing before we even had computers. So there you go. It was even more analog. It would fold out and we'd have a paper following it all through. But still works to this day.
It's a great idea though. You need to have a plan. It's very easy to get swamped, caught up in new jobs, new opportunities, and to forget about the things that are going to give you opportunities for next quarter, next week, next month, next year. So you need to keep replenishing that. You know, like you say, we do it at JobAdder. We've got our big bets, big accounts that we want to get into, but we've also got our SMBs and smaller businesses that we know of, and we want to try and move them through the pipeline as well. So yeah, really great to be process driven around it. But is my screen coming through okay?
It is, yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, superb. So this is our opportunities tab, and it's a bit like what Angela's just showing you, but the UI is a little bit more friendlier, and this is linked to JobAdder. So at the top, you have the different stages. Now, I've not put in 13 or 15, but you could do that. Very easy for you to edit them, and then it just means that you know where each of the opportunities is up to at any given point in time. You've got the opportunity itself, so I always go by job title. I've seen something online, I think they're looking for a nurse, or I met with Idris and he told me that they're going to be looking for a certain role. I would add that into my opportunities pipeline. It's a half lead, an opportunity, a sniff, we used to call it when I worked in recruitment, but it's something I do not want to lose track of. We've also got the company, contact, the stage it's up to, and you can see here, it's really easy for me to move the opportunities through the different stages that I have identified work best for me. I can move it through when the opportunity was last contacted, that might be via phone, might be via email, and I can also see when the next task is due. So Angela mentioned about prompts. I'm a prompt-driven salesperson. I need someone to say, you need to do this now. So in HubSpot, which is what we use, I've got all the prompts in the world, and it just means that I don't miss out on anything, because otherwise I'm just buried in process. For us to create an opportunity, because having a CRM is all about efficiency, all I need to do is have a couple of bits of information. And this is the part that when I speak to most recruiters, it's the part that often gets overlooked, because if there's too much admin, I'm going to go to the path of least resistance, which is probably Excel, which is exactly what I used when I was in recruitment, but I didn't use JobAdder. So all I need is the company, the URL, the contact, and because Leonardo was such a great name earlier, and just move that. We're going to add him as a new contact onto our database as well.
Love it.
And that's all we need to do. I can add in the value as well. So educated guess on what that might be up to. I can also assign multiple owners to this. I can add in any additional information, such as where I got that lead from, create a task as well. And that is all I need to do. I can then follow this opportunity through to hopefully it closing and being a live opportunity for us, sending emails, adding notes, conducting specific activities that we want to track and be able to report on. So I try to get through to them via WhatsApp. Here's what I sent to them. And then I can report on the number of times that either I or my colleagues have done that and whether that's been successful, because there's a science to it, isn't there? You want to be able to track the number of times that you've done something and it's actually led to a positive result. Because if you're sending out newsletters or mail shots and getting nothing back, why are we doing that? Does our market respond to that? If it responds to something else, let's do that, because I'll have to do less of it to get better results as well. And that is the opportunities tab. So I'll stop sharing and hand the floor back to my esteemed colleague.
Brilliant. But that's the thing, isn't it? Having that control over the opportunities, what's there? Can I see it visually? What am I actually doing to move this relationship on? So for your potential clients, yeah, you need to be on it. You need to be moving it forward. If you're working with a company, of course, again, it's likely to be activities every week that's happening quite a lot right at the beginning, and then that will taper off a little bit as the process has gone through to the end. But things like the aftercare service for the client and the candidate, once you've actually made that placement, we're noticing that's got missed recently. So having those as part of that weekly process. So for us, it was 3, 7, 11 calls. So that could be on your tab for existing clients whenever you make a placement. Week 3, week 7, week 11, because the rebates were at week 4, week 8 and week 12. And therefore we'd want to make sure that we spoke to them, both the candidate first, then the client, to see how everything was going. And we do know week 3 is actually critical. So yes, you do your check-ins the first week. Day 3 is critical for people. Oh, and I've just been on the webinar with Katrina Collier on reboot hiring because I'm in here. But there was a stat, and I've closed the book now, so I don't know where it was. But we always talk about that. Yeah, day 3, week 3, month 3 is critical when people make that decision. I'm sure the stat said that 40% of people sort of make their decision in that first week as to whether, am I going to stick with this? Have I made the right decision or not? So you as a recruiter need to be there, need to be having the conversations, ironing out any ripples, anything that's gone wrong. So again, following up at 3 weeks, at that point, people sort of, is this my tribe? Is this a company I want to work with? Do I want to stay here? So you want to be on top of that. And then the 3 months, you're then identifying, okay, can I do this? Because we know as recruiters, our job, it takes a good 3 months to understand the job and to realize, yeah, can I do this or not? And it might be, okay, I can't quite do it all yet, but I'm getting there and I'm loving it and I'm enjoying it and it's a challenge and I can develop. Again, we recommend 6-month probations for recruiters because 3 months is not long enough for them to have got it all, understood it, and be putting it into practice, and for it to be working. So do give them a chance. If you want more on onboarding, we've done some onboarding webinars, and actually we've got an Ask the Coach, that one of our webinars that JobAdder sponsor, that in October is all going to be about onboarding. So we'll make sure we get those once they're out as well. Okay, going back to my slides then. Let's hope this works, because I think I had to get rid of them. I've lost the top of the screen in my Crowdcast. I've never had that before. It's all suddenly shifted upwards. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I know this is going to work. There we go. We can do this. So your potential clients, you've got it all planned out, and the aim is to obviously move them along to those opportunities and to close them down. But once you've got them, you've got to keep them. And that should be part of your pipeline as well, retaining those existing clients, not letting them go. So what we're looking at here is some of those activities that should be embedded into your process with your existing clients. So first and foremost, when you start working with them, a service level agreement. So what levels are we going to put on the service that we're going to work together? How are we going to agree that? And it might be as simple as a one-page recruitment plan. Again, if you want copies of these things, just reach out to me and ask. Because a one-page recruitment plan will have what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how many you need, so how many CVs, how many interviews, how long a time period between the interview and the feedback, all of those elements as to how you can work together well. So put those into a service level agreement, get agreement between you and the client or you and the hiring manager to identify, okay, what are we going to look at? And of course, then you need to review those. Are you actually living up to your standards? Are they living up to their standards that they agreed to? I must admit, when you have service reviews planned in, you tend to stick to yours. It's an opportunity to highlight where maybe the process is going wrong because the client isn't sticking to theirs. So I don't want to say too much on that, but if you're in recruitment, you know what I mean. And your service review is a great idea to be able to do that. So you're going to come to it with all the management information that you've got, all of the roles that you've taken on, how long they've taken, what's your time to hire, what's your average amount of CVs that you've been sending to each role, does that fit with your agreement, and things like the feedback timeframes and the quality of feedback that you've been getting that you're able to pass on to candidates. I've been working with a big client this week on training their hiring managers, and feedback was a key point of that. It can make a big difference to a business. So all those people that don't get the job, they get a really positive experience with some balanced feedback, both the positives that they did well, that they can enhance, but also the development areas. Why is it they didn't get the job? That's what people want to know. And yeah, it might sting to start with, but at least it means they now know for the next time, and they're much more likely to get that next job. So we need to spend a bit more time on that feedback. I did a webinar with Justin Hillier a couple of weeks ago on the feedback and with hiring managers and the impact it has on people actually accepting the roles. So even those that get offered aren't always accepting because of the experience they've had there. So again, have a look at that. The Recruiter Insider in sessions, because that feedback data can be critical. So once you've got your service reviews, you decide how often. So it might only need once a year. It might be an annual review if there's not a lot of business, but if there is a lot that you're working with them, I would suggest at least quarterly. There were some clients we had a monthly service review. There were some that we met with them every Friday. Where we'd have hundreds of people on site, and in the end we'd have people actually working on site with them as a managed service. So there's opportunities for you. The more business you get, you decide on those. The half-yearly updates was also a review of the rates, a rate review. So you might have it in your contract that you've got a 3-year contract with them and here's the rates. Make sure you put it in there, a 3-year rate review. That really helps to build the pipeline and the business moving forwards, knowing you can supply to it and you're not going to be losing money. We saw this happen during the sort of 21-22 when all of the salaries went up and people weren't necessarily able to put their rates up to the clients and the margins were cut so thin. They become victims of their own success. They were putting out loads more people, but actually damaging their business because they weren't getting enough revenue to continue. So have those half-yearly rate reviews planned into them as an activity as well. And it's a great opportunity for you to share your knowledge about the market and to be able to utilise that. We do so many things, I've just realised, because yeah, if you don't know much about the market, then Hiring Happenings with a Pestle Twist that we do once a month, which is a podcast that tells you all about what's going on using Pestle: political, economical, sociological, technological, legislative, environmental. So all of that information is there for you as well, both UK and globally. Right, lots of plugs today. The annual renewal, great chance to actually get to know them a bit more on a personal level. So I'd always try and book the meeting, go through all the data, make sure you get it signed off for the next year. Again, you're at the half year, so you would do those rate reviews as well. And then you go out and party. Now, that might be a really nice lunch at a nice restaurant, or it could actually be a party. But yeah, celebrate it. Make sure that you are taking the opportunity to spend a bit of personal time with that client. If you're at that level, then you really want to get to know them a little bit more on their own. So all of that is helping you to close this client on an ongoing basis, that end of that funnel, arrow, whatever we're going to be calling it. But it's just an ongoing basis that you're able to do that. Okay, we're going to come back to using the CRM effectively to support your efforts, because knowing that I've got to come off and back on again, and we will be having your questions. So now's your time. If you've got any questions, put them in the chat. We'll be coming to those in a moment. So I do want to let people know that they need to review and qualify their clients. Yeah, so the clients that you're working with, make sure that you're qualifying them. Create a 13-week strategy for them, whether it's through your CRM, whether it's a spreadsheet that you then input into the CRM, and reach out if you need any help. I do want to shout out as well that the next session is in 2 weeks' time, and it's at 10 a.m. because we've got Chris South, who is it New Zealand, or it's New Zealand he's based, isn't it? Yeah, that'd be really late for him. So that's a 10 a.m. one. We've got Chris South from Roy AI, and Roy as in ROI, return on investment. So we definitely want to hear all about that. So let's go back then to utilising the CRM effectively to support all of those efforts. So I'm going to hand back to you, Idris. Let's stop sharing that.
Superb, thank you very much. Then I'm just going to share my screen. Great. So talking about the different ways that we can use the CRM to go and support your efforts. And we're looking at ways to organize you and your teams a bit better. I think that boils down to the data that you are collecting. Some of the really great ways that we can add onto the opportunities tab is by building specific activities for certain actions. So it might be, how do we qualify a job? How do we close a job opportunity? How do we qualify a candidate? And we can standardize that entire process within the system. When I started in JobAdder, I used to print out an A3 sheet of paper that had every single question that I had to go and take down. And that just ensured that I didn't forget to ask about any holidays, didn't forget to ask about the location of the job. Also, do they need to travel? All of those things that are going to help to standardize the way that we deliver success and ultimately then deliver good results as well. What we also have in here is our temp module as well. So Angela mentioned earlier, how do we keep in touch with candidates? How do we ensure that, that 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, how that goes swimmingly? So within here, we've almost got our temp book. So this has our temp talent pool, which we're not looking at here, but our working temps. Who's booked to be starting soon? Who's currently working? Who's finishing in the next 4 weeks, and who's due to finish as well. So from here, we can track down who the specific person is, when that person's working, who the recruiter is, when the last task or activity was, so that if we are then going to that half-yearly review, we can ensure that we know exactly what needs to be discussed, where some of the issues might be, where the opportunities for growth also might be found as well. And then
that's the key, isn't it? Those opportunity for growth with your existing clients. Who's going to be a key account in the future? Where can we see that? If we've got a database that's creating that for us, oh my goodness, that saves you so much time and effort.
As well. We previously, on one of the latter webinars, we spoke about our opportunities within the reporting suite. So the reporting suite gives you that management information that identifies where you're doing good, who you're doing the best with, your fill rates, placement rates, revenue rates, which is just going to make that half-yearly review so much easier. So I do believe I've got it open, so I can show you very quickly.
That would be fantastic.
It has logged me out, so apologies for going to just ask for a couple of minutes of your time. Technology has failed me here, but it shouldn't be too
Let me
long.
just
I've
check
got some new
LinkedIn because I
internet.
can't. I'll go and see if there's any questions on there. So feel free
Perfect.
to add those if they're in there.
Perfect.
Comments don't always come up on LinkedIn though. I go back in later and people have been doing comments and it's like, why didn't I see those at the time? So apologies if we missed them. If we do miss them and you've got a question, we'll make sure we come back and answer them for you. Yeah, because my comment's not in there that I've actually put. So I know that there were comments in there. I can't see mine. So yeah. Interesting.
This tab that we're looking at is my data from the beginning of the year until now, so 9 months. And this is going to show us the number of companies that you've added and contacted. Of those, how many are new within that period? How many of those don't have jobs? What percentage are without jobs? The number of contacts from these companies that have been contacted, and how many new contacts you've added. This is where you're going to get the really important data for those half-yearly reviews, because I can come in here and I can go and say, these are the companies that I'm meeting with over the next week. Or if I'm meeting with a new client and they work in the aerospace industry, I could just go in here, click everyone that works in the aerospace industry, and I'm going to get an average of the number of jobs that we've had, our fill rate as a percentage, the number of placements, and total revenue over a period. And I can then compare that and see whether we're up or down.
Oh, that's such good data, isn't it? So you're benchmarking specifically for their industry. And if they're not pulling their weight, you've got some data there that's going to show, look, this could be so much better because this is the average and we're way below. Oh, lovely bit of praise the other way. If it's you are way above the average and let's make sure that carries on next year. How are we going to do that? Oh, love this.
That's a great selling point. It's, this is why you should work with me, because I feel hopefully a lot more than 14%, but with 90% of the roles of your competitors, you really know your onions. I definitely want to go and work with you. That's just a really great way of getting that data, and that has taken me seconds to do. Whereas when I have the opportunity to speak to some clients, it takes a long time. So I'm really able to help them. And that's why I do this job.
And we didn't have the benchmark either. We only had their data. We didn't have the opportunity to then work it out as an average for everyone. So we would literally be pulling that. We'd be asking accounts for it and everything. So yeah, it took work. It was worth it because it did mean that we kept those businesses. But click of a button. Love that.
Exactly that.
Fantastic.
I will stop sharing my screen.
Brilliant. So thank you so much for that. That's our first session on building pipelines. So we've looked at the actual pipelines itself, the elements within it, the activities that you can be doing for both potential and existing clients to move it forward, and utilizing your CRM to make sure that everything's up to date. It's letting you know what you need to do next. And if you've got an amazing CRM like JobAdder, then obviously a few clicks of the button, you've got all your reports and all your information, and it's letting you know where you are with everything as well. So life's so much easier if you've got that type of data at your fingertips. Thank you so much, Idris. As I mentioned, we'll be back again in a couple of weeks, 10 in the morning on that one. For Chris South, who'll be joining us from New Zealand from Roy AI. Looking forward to that one. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Pascal. Very good course. Thank you, both. Yeah, we love that.
Thanks, everyone.